Good evening. I'd like to call the regular East China Board of Education meeting to order. It is January 22nd, 2024. If we could start with a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, the Board of Education will take their ceremonial oath of office. If everyone could please stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me. And please remember to say your name. I state your name, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
I, Pat Bebock, solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of this state.
and the Constitution of this state,
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of this office
of member of the Board of Education
of member of the Board of Education
of East China School District
of East China School District
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Each January, the East China School District Board of Education elects its officers. At this time, I will take nominations for board president.
I'd like to nominate Jeannie Frank.
Jeannie Frank, any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, I need a motion to elect Jeannie Frank as East China School District Board President.
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Got that, Tiffany? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Jeannie. The meeting is now yours.
Thank you, everybody. Now I need a motion to elect the vice president. Do I have somebody that would like to nominate the board vice president?
So I'd like to nominate Pat Bebock.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I need to have a motion to nominate Pat Bebock as board vice president.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Pat, congratulations.
Thank you.
I now need a nomination for treasurer.
I'd like to nominate Karen Cedar.
Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Okay, hearing none, I need a motion to elect Karen Cedar as the board treasurer.
So moved. Support.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Congratulations, Karen. And I need a nomination for secretary.
I'd like to nominate Todd Distelrath.
Are there any other nominations for secretary? Okay. Hearing none, I need a motion to elect Todd Distelrath as board secretary.
So moved.
Support.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Todd. Okay, so we will now move on to items of interest, recognition, and inquiry. Does the Board of Education have anything they'd like to share? No? Okay. Mrs. Sibula?
Yes, I have a fun one to share this evening. School will be closed tomorrow due to the icy conditions that we're experiencing and will continue to experience over the evening. So East China School District is closed tomorrow, the 23rd of January. I also want to remind everyone that the February 27th election will have a ballot proposal for East China School District to renew our operating mills. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is the special recognition of school board members. Mrs. Sybula.
I have asked Denny Borzi, the principal of St. Clair Middle School, to help me with the recognition this evening. January is School Board Recognition Month, and we have an amazing board that has led us through some interesting times and some difficult times and some fun times. And I cannot thank each and every one of them enough for the different perspectives and personalities and strengths that they bring to East China School District. And I am to read, per the governor, that she has declared January 2024 as School Board Member Appreciation Month. We are fortunate in East China to have such a dedicated group of individuals to serve as board members in our district. Board members serve without compensation, and that is true dedication. On behalf of all of our staff, students, and community, thank you to each of our board members for their service to us and to our community. I'd like to first recognize Jeannie Frank, President Jeannie Frank. She has been on the board since 2013, which is 11 years of service. No. And in their honor, you want to go ahead and, thank you. Each board member will receive a book that will be dedicated to one of our school libraries. So thank you, Jeannie Frank.
Thank you.
Mrs. Pat Bebuck has been serving the East China School Board for 9 years, since 2015. Yeah, don't forget her book. Yep.
I don't have to have it.
Thank you, Mrs. Bebuck.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Mr. Todd Disselrath has been serving the East China School District Board for 9 years, since 2015. Thank you, Mr. Disselrath. Mrs. Karen Cedar, since 2019. She's been serving the board for 5 years.
I still have some of Chelsea's books.
Thank you, Mrs. Cedar. Mr. Michael Westrick, since 2019, 5 years on the East China School Board. Thank you, Mr. Westrick. Mrs. Jessica Becker, since 2022. She's served the East China School Board for 1 year.
It's 2 years.
Well, 2, yep. Almost.
Almost.
And finally, Mr. Ronald Miller, since 2023. Thank you for your service to the school board, Mr. Miller, and all of our board members. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Borzi, for your help.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to our consent agenda. A motion is needed for the approval of minutes from our regular Board of Education meeting on December 18th of 2023, the approval of payment of bills, financial statement and schedule of investments, and the appointment of a teacher.
So moved.
Support.
Are there any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We will move on to our department reports. If anybody has something to share this evening, please do so. No?
Well, good evening,
Hi,
everyone.
Dawn.
I just want to say we are going to be welcoming the class of 2037. The week of March 4th will be our annual Kindergarten and Young Fives Roundup. More information will be posted out on our website later this week, but as in prior years, we'll be holding a roundup at each of the elementary schools, starting Monday of that week and concluding through Thursday. So the specific locations, dates, and times will be out on our website, and we will also have packets at the local elementary schools and preschools for those who have little ones ready to start kindergarten and young fives next year.
It's exciting.
Thank
Thank you. Wow. Mr. Whaling?
You're just forever away.
I know.
Thank you, Mrs. Demick. I wanted to provide a quick update from the curriculum department related to the January 15th PD Day that was put on in the district. We hosted the event in the Performing Arts Center, the Innovation Center, and the Administration Building. In total, we had 250 staff members, including teaching staff, administrative team members, building substitutes, and some of our support staff were in attendance. In total, across the day, we had 35 different sessions for our staff to select from. And then the day ended with different team building activities for each of the 9 building staffs that we have in the district. And then finally, we would like to thank the presenters for lending their time and expertise to the day. Our different presenters included some of our own teachers, some technology folks, RISA consultants specific to different content areas, our district interventionists, the special education staff at RISA, community mental health, and McGraw-Hill consultants. So all in all, it was a really good day. It's the second year that we've had that set up, and we got really positive results from it. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have no update. I'll be presenting later.
Okay, great, thank you.
Just business as usual for the special education department, and I have no updates from my last board update.
All right, thank you.
Nothing from operations.
I can't not talk, come on.
I
Happy end of January. Just a couple things, we're excited. This week, we're getting our low voltage final inspection from the state for the cable at Marine City, for the cafeteria, the Knowledge Center, so we're gonna be excited to move forward and complete that. Working already on some St. Clair High projects. You probably do not know, but back in 1998 is when the fiber optic cable was originally installed underground at St. Clair High. And what we found over the last month or so is that it's not low enough in the ground, so we need to do some rerouting of the fiber. We're working on that, it's all good. But other than that, things are going well.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. I'll defer until information discussion items.
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Okay, we'll move on to committee reports. Mrs. Saibula?
For the committee reports this evening, I'm going to be updating on the policy committee. We have 2 groups of policies to update this evening. And the process that I would like to do this evening is in the front of your packet, you have your folder, yep, there you go. There you go. On the left-hand side of that folder, I believe, is the policy number 5707, School Wellness Policy. This was an updated provided by our attorney and policy holders, which is Troon. It's 5707, School Wellness Policy, and I'm just going to quickly read the revision. There is no optional language in this policy. It's one that we're required to adopt. So I'm making you aware that it will be adopted after you take action at our February 5th board meeting. So this update adds a new subsection 1.2 to eliminate lunch shaming in quotes. This update is required for schools to receive funds for student meal debt forgiveness as provided by the new section 31K of the State School Aid Act. Subsection 31K7 requires eligible school districts to adopt policies to prevent public identification or stigmatization of pupils who cannot pay for a school meal. We drafted the revisions to policy 5707 to be consistent with subsection 31K7. So again, there's no optional language. It just is stating that we cannot take any action to stigmatize students who are behind in their school lunch debt. Any question?
No.
Okay. The next grouping is a very large update on the right-hand side of your folder. This is the repeal of the 2011 para legislation. And I'm going to read through just a little bit so that we can all understand where this is coming from. So the first thing that I'm going to be reading from is from the cover letter from our attorneys from Troon. And it states, Troon Law Firm PC is updating 11 board policies to bring them into compliance with new legislative changes to the Michigan Public Employment Relations Act, PARA, the State School Aid Act, the Revised School Code, and the Teacher Tenure Act. So the updates and a brief summary are provided underneath that first paragraph, but I want to make note on page 2 In the last paragraph, after the word notably, 5 of the policy updates listed contain an R to indicate that those revised policies are not to become effective until July 1, 2024. So you see on the list, let's see, the third one down, 4402-R, that policy then with that R designation would not be in effect until July. So that is the cover letter that outlines each of them. Now I'm moving on to the November 2023 Policy Update Summary from Troon. It looks like this. It's going to have all 11 of the policies. If there was optional language in the policy, it's highlighted in this outline. So the first one, 4108, Union Activity and Representation. This policy has been updated to reflect the 2023 amendments to the Public Employment Relations Act, PARA, that remove prohibitions of voluntary deduction from wages for union dues and contributions to political action committees. The optional language was added to allow districts to charge administrative costs for collecting and processing deductions. The policy subcommittee, the East China School District Board Policy Subcommittee and administration recommend to adopt that optional language. So then if you look in the actual policies, the first blue highlighted section is that language. So the language reads, optional. Unless prohibited by a collective bargaining agreement, the district may charge an administrative fee to the labor organization for collecting and processing dues and other deductions on the organization's behalf. So the recommendation by the committee and administration is to adopt that language into the policies.
So my only question, I would like to know, in general, like, how much we might possibly consider charging, what our costs are related to that, if that would be, what our decision would be based on, those costs. So just a little more clarification on the amount that we're talking about.
Sure, and I can certainly get that for you. I don't know what the dollar amount would be that would be charged, but in the past, it was a flat rate charged to the union as a one-time fee or a one-time collected fee. I do want to point out that this optional language contains the word may. Doesn't mean that it has to be done, but it may be done if costs become prohibitive in any way. I will get that information for you. The next policy is 4207, third-party contracting of non-instructional support services. There's no optional language. It needs to be adopted as presented. So updated to reflect the 2023 amendments to PARA that removes third-party contracting of non-instructional support services from prohibitive subjects of bargaining. The language modified to allow district to contract third parties to maximum extent allowed by CBAs and law. So again, in that one, there was no optional language and would be adopted as presented. The next one, 4402, assignment and transfer, updated to reflect the 2023 amendments to PARA and revised school code section 1248 regarding teacher placement. Language added to define qualifications and vacancies. Again, no optional language. Policy number 4403, performance evaluation. This was updated to reflect the 2023 amendments to PARA and RSC section 1249 regarding teacher evaluation. There is optional language, and the policy committee and administration is recommending to adopt biannually. It was bi or tri, so every 2 or 3. So the recommendation is for every 2 years. The next policy is 4404, performance-based compensation, updated to reflect the 2023 repeal of RSC Section 1250 and State School Aid Act Sections 164H regarding teacher merit pay. There is optional language in this policy, and the recommendation is to adopt that optional language. Policy 4405.
Where is that optional?
Oh, I'm sorry. So if you go to policy 4404,
This is.
yes.
But
So,
it says if the board elects not to adopt this policy,
so we
we delete.
delete it, yep. So right underneath is the actual language. The superintendent or designee may implement a performance-based compensation system for professional staff. This policy must be implemented consistent with policy 1101. So the recommendation is to adopt that.
To leave that statement in.
Yes, correct.
Got it.
4405, reduction in force and recall. Updated to reflect the 2023 amendments to para and RSC Section 1248 regarding layoff and recall, and RSC Section 1249 regarding teacher evaluation. So what I'd like us all to get to that, there is actually 3 spots within this policy. So you're going to want to go to 4405-R, reduction in force and recall. And then the blue language, the optional language. The recommendation is for option 2 to be adopted. The second recommendation under optional language, where at least 30 calendar days, the recommendation is not to adopt, to omit that language. And the third recommendation is under teacher recall process. A teacher is eligible for recall under this policy for the 12 months from the date the district implemented the reduction in force, which is recommended, the 12 months. So option 2, and then omit the optional language, and then 12 months. (4407), policy number, discipline, updated to reflect the 2023 amendment to para that removes teacher discipline from prohibitive subjects of bargaining. There is no optional language in that policy. On our next page, number 4408, termination, updated to reflect the 2023 amendments to para that removes teacher discipline from prohibitive subject of bargaining in RSC Section 1249 regarding teacher evaluation. The optional language, the recommendation is to adopt option number 1, which is 5 years. It is what our current CBA has in place, or the provision. Our collective bargaining agreement currently has 5 years, so that would just be consistent. Number 4409, non-renewal, updated to reflect the 2023 amendments to RSC Section 1249 regarding teacher evaluation. The optional language in here with the recommendation of 5 years. Number 4503, performance evaluation for administrators, updated to reflect the 2023 amendments to RSC Section 1249 regarding administrator evaluation. There is no optional language within this policy. Last one, 4504, performance-based compensation for administrators, updated to reflect the 2023 repeal of RSC Section 1250 and SSAA Section 164H regarding teacher merit pay, and the recommendation is to adopt the language and it mirrors the one that we adopted earlier for performance-based compensation.
Do we currently have merit pay in our practice?
No.
Do we
But it-
have, so this is providing us the option to
Option.
include it. Do we have a definite plan to implement it, or just leaving it out?
Just leaving the option open. So that's why, so it reads, the superintendent or designee may implement a performance-based compensation system for administrators, supervisors, and directors. And so it has to be implemented consistent with policy 1101, just like for the other groups. It just leaves that in here if we wanted to utilize that. So like I said at the beginning, this is the largest update we will probably see coming out. They're normally going to be like the 5707, the wellness policy. It'll be one or two at a time, but this was a big legislative change to para and the non-negotiable items within the collective bargaining agreement negotiations. So you have the packets. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to answer them.
And
Thank
these
you.
need to be implemented by
February 13th,
13th. So these will be an action item on our February 5th agenda.
yes.
We can take these with us.
Yes. Mhm.
I just want to commend you for your job of putting all of this information together. It's so organized, so well thought out. Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Tiffany. You're welcome, thanks.
Okay, so then we'll move on into our information and discussion items. Bond 2020 update. AUK is not going to be here this evening, so we will move on into our 2023-24 budget revision with Mrs. Gleason, Angie Gleason.
Good evening. Hopefully I can get through this without coughing too terribly much. But this evening, I'd like to present the 2023-2024 amendment to our general fund budget, commonly referred to as the R1. We have an overview. The three things I'd like to cover this evening are the assumptions made in the original budget versus our actual numbers for the R1, the proposed amendment itself, and then a quick review of our fund balance history. Public schools are required to have a board-approved original budget submitted on June 30th, or by June 30th. When preparing the original 2023-2024 budget, we're forced to make some assumptions. And the two notable assumptions are the pupil count and the state foundation allowance. We'll take a look at each of these. The state per pupil foundation allowance, noted in blue, was announced early in July at $9,608 per student. The original budget used $9,600 in the foundation allowance calculation, and we've made the adjustment for that $8 increase. The state student membership, which you can see in orange, is based on the 2023 pupil counts completed last spring and then again in October. The original budget anticipated a 126 student decrease, and the current state membership reflects 143 student decrease from the prior year. So we've adjusted to reflect the additional 17 student decrease. I thought it was important to note that the significance of this, what 143 students loss means. So when you take the 143 students multiplied by the $9,608 in foundation allowance, it equates to $1,373,944 reduction to our foundation allowance. So this is an example of this is our foundation allowance over the last 10 years. The student membership and the per pupil foundation are multiplied to equate the total foundation allowance. In 2024, we did see an increase of $314,244. The current 34 million, we just hit the 34 million mark. The current $34 million foundation allowance makes up 66.73% of the revenue in our general fund. I did want to note too, like over the 10 years that we've kind of stayed within $500,000 there. 10 years ago, we were just above 33 million. We've really stayed in that same $500,000, two lines, and just over the last couple of years have we actually hit 34 million. So it has stayed, you know, as the foundation allowance looks like it's increasing. When you multiply it by the decreased students, it stays pretty consistent. So after updating our assumptions and plugging in our now actual audited numbers, we are proposing an amended budget. This table summarizes our revenue and expenditures and calculates fund balance. That first column reflects our fiscal year 23 audited financials. We had revenues of $50,215,535 and expenditures of $50,526,362. The net difference decreased our fund balance by $310,827. And when added to our beginning balance, it left us with a fund balance of $6,631,353, which we carry over into this new year, 2023-24. So the second column reflects our 2023-2024 original budget as originally presented, with revenues of $48,589,194 and expenditures of $50,034,424, with the difference reducing our fund balance by $1,445,230. The original budget was created in May, which was before our final audited numbers. Therefore, that beginning balance was a projection, and as you'll see, it varies from the actual 2023 ending fund balance that you see in yellow. So then on to the amended budget. I've highlighted in blue that proposed amendment with revenue of $51,011,597 and expenditures of $51,863,359. We have decreased our net difference, but we still dip into our audited 2023 fund balance by $851,762. Our new proposed fund balance as a percentage of expenditures is 11.14%. I did want to make mention or wanted to reference the state standards as our auditor, Curtis McBride, shared in October. The average fund balance for all Michigan school districts is 20.31%, and a district similar to the size of East China School District, with pupil count ranging from 3,500 to 3,999 students, averages about 20.29% fund balance. Okay, let's look at the revenues. So our total revenues are associated with four sources: local, state, federal, and other. The local sources are primarily made up of our operating mills, which are levied on our non-homestead properties. And for 2023-2024, the total is $11,766,181 for the operating mills. The total sources were decreased from the original budget by $76,132. We've received local and county board of review adjustments, granting exemption totaling around $70,000. So that's the primary difference between the original budget and the amendment. Our state sources, the foundation allowance balance after collecting our non-homestead mills That is the difference that we've received from the state. Also included in the state sources is the MIPSERS 147C flow-through, which reflects an increase of $605,363. And by flow-through, I mean where we receive the money after we've spent the money. And then the state categoricals or grants for programs like special ed, at-risk, mental health, safety and security. State grants included carryover dollars as well as new funding totaling about $2.3 million. And then if we move on to federal, our federal sources are made up of Title I and II, IDEA, which is Individuals with Disabilities Education Grant, and one-time allocations like ESSER. Each of these federal sources have very specific plans in place, as well as guidance for allocations. And they'll have expenditures, they'll have an expenditure line that offsets. And the other sources are typically flow-through funds, which are based on programming offered through RESA. Okay, move on to the expenditures. The expenditures are summarized by object type, which are salary and benefits, purchase services, supplies, repairs, capitals, and other. The amended budget reflects the following. We have an increase in salaries by $2,010,145. These numbers include all the negotiated contracts, including additional custodial staff, as well as grant-funded positions. An adjustment to increase benefits of $1,028,741 is reflective of current salaries, as well as a 3.9% rate increase for health benefits. For purchase services or contracted services, we reduced that section by $1,226,817. By bringing the custodians in-house, it allows us to properly reduce the custodial service contract, which was the majority of that change. And for supplies and repairs, we received minor adjustments to reflect some of our grant spending. And then the increase of $113,510 in capital was for the purchase of small equipment for our current building needs.
Would that also be equipment that, for our custodians?
Yes,
So we own our own equipment now?
yes, we do own our own equipment now.
Okay.
Okay. And then we'll move on to the fund balance history. This is a historical look at the audited fund balance. This table lists them by fiscal year, the total expenditures, audited net revenue and expenditures, the end of year fund balance, and then the fund balance percentage as a total of expenditures. And then at the very bottom, the blue highlighted line is the 2023-2024 R1 or revised budget that provides an 11.14 fund balance. And that is all I have to share about that. Do we have any questions?
I just wanted to highlight, under your revenues by source, that local revenue in the amended budget, is it 13,130?
Yes.
That is the operating mills that will be on the February 27th
Yes.
election that we're asking for.
Yes. I had mentioned this year we collected $12,766,181. That is the total of our operating mills.
Thank you.
Okay, we see how that reflects as a total.
And that is what we're going for in February, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So on page 6, the original budget versus the amended R1, it looks like we went up 1.8 million during that,
And expenditures?
during that revision. You don't have to do it today, but if you could give me a breakdown of what was in that increase.
Sure. Sure.
I have a question.
Yep.
On page 8, I might have just missed it, but expenditures by object, what's under the other classification? What does that consist of?
Other is typically, it is typically fees and,
Recent programming?
no, that's the revenue other. It is fees and I believe, what in the life, for the life of me?
Well, you can just let me know.
I'm gonna have to, I
Yeah,
apologize.
that's okay, no worries.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any questions?
You know what? I know what it is.
Okay.
Okay. I had to think about
That's
it
what
a
my brain
second.
does sometimes.
I
too.
know, I had to
go,
think about it a
give me
second.
minute."
It's like a lava lamp.
So what that is that credit, because I was looking at, okay, so we increased the credit that we're receiving. And what that is the credit that our transportation department receives for use of our school buses. So it's really just a transfer of the expense. So where we see the expense in transportation, this is where we're pulling the expense out of maybe an athletic budget or maybe out of internal funds where parents have paid for a field
Gotcha.
trip. And so it's putting that money back in, and it falls under other fees.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Everybody all set?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Angie.
Nice job, Angie. Okay, our next item is impact-resistant film. Mr. Dave Kennedy?
Good evening. Many of you are probably wondering what impact-resistant film is, and I'll get to that in a second. But I think before I get started, just a brief background on the genesis of this project. When I first hired on in April of '22, one of the first things I did was I consulted the Michigan State Police Office of School Safety webpage, looked at their best practices for school districts to figure out what we needed to do to come in compliance with what they're asking us to do. One of the things I saw and I had prior experience with was doing risk and vulnerability assessments in all of our buildings. So I enlisted the St. Clair County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management to assist me in doing that. They were kind enough to come out, and I walked through each of our buildings with them at various times through that summer and into the fall in order to complete this project. So they provided me with reports for each of our buildings, indicating our risk and vulnerabilities. This serves two purposes. One, for me, just to give us an idea of what we need to do and where we're strong at and what we need to fix. And secondly, allows us, when we apply for grants, when we have these reports done, we can check off a box that we've got these done. So I thank them for helping us with that. One of the projects, one of the things I looked at with respect to the elementary schools is I wanted to look at hardening the exterior of the schools. Now, impact-resistant film is an 8mm thick, clear film that will be applied to the exterior windows and glass doors of the schools. It will help thwart people who are trying to enter the school by force. So the idea is that if somebody was to come to the school with ill intent and try to get into the school, it would buy time for our staff members and students who've been trained in certain techniques and how to keep themselves from harm to employ some of those techniques. So that's kind of how it all comes together. So what I did was I talked with 4 different companies. They had quotes from 4 different companies who came out and measured windows, and we walked around and did all that. After review of all those and comparing the quotes, Protective Films of Michigan came in with the best price to install at Palms Elementary, the amount of $18,738.01. I'm starting with Palms as a kind of a test school. I want to do all of our elementaries eventually, and I'll be coming to you with that as time goes on, but I wanted to start with this project at first. So if there's any questions.
And how's that being funded?
I'm sorry?
Excuse me, how's that being funded?
That's out of, going to be grant money, is it 97? Section 97 money,
Excellent, excellent.
so.
How does it work if somebody has to get out the window?
I'm sorry?
If somebody has to get out the window?
I mean, you'd have to break the window. Yeah, it would be a little bit more difficult to break a window. So, but I think it's a good trade-off.
But isn't that film made to keep the shards of glass there so people can't get in?
This is actually impact resistant, so it's, to resist impacts of any type. it's going to slow them down. It's not going to prevent somebody who really wanted to get in, but, my goal, my hope is that, it's the opportunity is not there because they try to get in and they can't get in, and so they move on. But that's where I'm coming from with that.
So the intention is obviously all of the exterior windows?
All exterior windows and doors, yep, at this time, and for all of our schools. In secondary schools, all dressed in a different fashion. It's a different situation in the secondary schools. So it's important to harden our elementary schools as much as possible.
Good stuff.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Okay, so now we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, recognition of persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is for citizens to address any questions or comments to the board. The board will listen, take your comments and questions under advisement, but not respond at this time. The board will refer your questions to the superintendent, who will research and then respond back to you. We ask that you please limit your comments to 5 minutes, and you can come up to the middle for the microphone there. I have 3 green cards. Did anybody else want to submit a green card this evening? Okay, so I have Tiffany. I didn't want to butcher your last name.
It's Gilsbach.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, forgive my voice. I was in the end zone at the Ford Field yesterday, so go Lions.
Good for you. How fun.
Yeah, so, and then just trying to make sure that I can be articulate today in this point too was kind of a bit. So, when does the clock start?
Start. You're
Okay,
fine.
those formal, I'm like looking for a stopwatch.
No,
But
you're
anyways,
good.
first I appreciate the opportunity to address my concerns and recommendations for the current district bond renovation. My focus is on creating a win-win for the district teachers and the students. I stand here with a really unique experience. I'm a 98 grad of Marine City High School, and I am a 16-year award-winning teacher veteran. I also was inducted in 2019 at Western Michigan in the Education Hall of Fame for the alumni there. And then I also have experience going through 2 massive renovations, once out in Colorado, once in California, with 2 of the districts that I worked for that really impacted about a quarter of my 16-year experience in teaching. So then I also had the opportunity to come back home when I decided to career pivot, and I subbed for the 2021 school year in East China School District. So that gave me the opportunity to get to know a lot of the staff across the district. Currently, I work for Imagine Learning, so you may be familiar with Imagine Edgenuity. That is one of my products. So it's the nation's largest ed tech K-12 districts digital solutions provider. So anyways, recently I just popped into Marine City High School. I was hoping to get a little private sneak peek preview of the school. And I was surprised at what I was seeing, enough that for the first time in my life, I'm at a board meeting speaking, hoping that I can bring light to a situation that really is super simple and easy. So I stand before you today just not as a concerned individual, extremely qualified to make this assessment, but as somebody who's super passionate as an advocate for the heart of our educational community and our students and teachers. My primary concern is revolving around inadequate teacher consultation in the classroom spaces. Every subject and every grade level benefits from varying room configurations. For example, you have a national award-winning business teacher on staff recognized for innovative lessons who recently empowered her students to create a classroom design with functional creative seating, which was awarded CTE funds to make a reality. This teacher is currently not allowed to keep any of the CTE-funded student-designed furniture from this grant and is expected to make do with the same desk and chairs that are found in all of the new classrooms, or most of the new classrooms, despite having a collaborative project-based learning curriculum that does not mirror traditional lecture teacher-centered learning. So this is only one example. I've talked to over dozens of the staff members in the districts over the course of the last month and a half. There are concerns with science lab layouts and band room functionality and technology placement, the lack of quality PD for your technology. So not allowing teachers to have the unique and functional spaces for students is also a misalignment with your district mission and vision, which states East China School Districts will provide student-centered environment and will support students' social, emotional, academic, and transitional life needs while ensuring that every single student's individual needs are met. So data and research can and does verify that having all classrooms be uniform, which is a word that has been regularly used by district and building administrators, is not equitable, nor does it meet the demands of ADA compliance or the needs of every student enter 504s and IEPs. So the new furniture, which provides each student with 8 wheels, mostly a lot of times on tile, is a safety and behavior hazard for many of the teachers pending their pedagogy. So some teachers are actually really, really happy with what's going on right now because the furniture in the rooms fits exactly what it is that their classroom styles and their experience requires. But the rest of the staff that I've worked with and talked to and heard word from word, they're frustrated that the district expects this one-size-fits-all approach of the bond renovation as the bottom line, and that all of their proactive and productive feedback and suggestions to date they felt have been shut down immediately by building and district administration. So now they're even concerned about being blackballed from future opportunities in the future. Additionally, there are safety concerns. You mentioned preparation with the film. I thought that was fantastic, by the way. So the internal rooms that are in Marine City High School that will have students in them do not have a second door. I would love to see something like that there. But also, while I was walking into the halls and some of the other classrooms, it currently has like a correctional facility like feel, to which could potentially be a deterrent to high quality teachers and families looking to move to Marine City or St. Clair or the surrounding areas, which then would impact our enrollment numbers, which concerns me. While we cannot undo the work that's already been completed, what I do propose is the following, hoping to improve the rest of the experience of the renovation and positively impact the teachers who are frustrated or feeling like the morale is really low. So this is where the win-win kind of comes in. This isn't going to cost much or anything at all. So, but my solutions are like the teachers that have furniture that is conducive to their learning environment, that supports them, that they have the ability to be able to keep that. This actually would save the district money. You would be able to return access desk and chairs if that's an ability. You could move those items over to other schools who maybe furniture hasn't been purchased for yet. So that's easy, to do that. Also implementing safety measures, like I mentioned before, adding that second door, whether those doors go to the next classroom, neighboring over, or directly into the media center, which is gorgeous, by the way. But also making sure there's a huge request. So the sentiment across all the staff is they're really, really excited about the technology that the district has been providing in the bond. But what they've been concerned about is the lack of quality, high quality professional development. So they're just not confident in using it, and it's impacting their ability to feel like they're creating effective lessons for their classes right now. And the other thing that I know that I heard from quite a few people also were they would love to have, for the board members specifically, open communication where they can have, they really want to have safe and effective collaboration and communication, but feel like this has been blocked by some administrations. So considering conducting an anonymous staff satisfaction survey that goes straight from their hands to yours, just to get a really good health and temperature touch on the district and see if, everyone's happy, and probably some really great suggestions there. But in conclusion, I hope that you do consider providing autonomy to foster those classroom environments that are conducive to each teacher's pedagogy. So every teacher is inspired and encouraged to take active, creative, and engaging learning opportunities where every student that walks in is not just eager to learn, but is excited to be there.
Tiffany, excuse me. You're quite over your 5 minutes. Are you
Okay,
about to
I'm
wrap
pretty
it
much
up?
done. That was I have like one last
We'll
sentence.
just wrap it up.
Yep. Nope, that was basically saying thank you, by the way.
Yep.
Every kid's excited to be there, a space where teachers are not confined by limitations, but empowered by possibilities. The best learning experiences happen when students feel welcome, comfortable, safe, engaged, and challenged. So our teachers, our community, our students deserve nothing less. Thank you so much for considering.
Thank you. And can you send that over to Mrs. Sibula so that
Yeah,
you have
absolutely. I have hard
everything you
copies
said?
as well if you wish.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, our next green card is Alan Richley.
First, before I get started, you might want to take an aspirin because I'm going to give you a heart attack, but I want to thank you for bringing the custodians back in-house. I think that's a good thing. They shouldn't have ever been not in-house, but anyway. Facts can be ignored, but their consequences cannot be escaped. These are wise words from Thomas Sowell. I'm here to respond to something that was said by the chairperson of your board that demonstrated her lack of knowledge regarding the timing of the election. this coming February, and I believe it needs to be cleared up. All of you present at the November meeting voted to put the non-homestead property tax millage renewal on the February special election ballot for a period of 9 years. This was after work was done in 2016 to prevent that from ever happening again. We did the work to ensure that these necessary elections would be held in regular election years and for a period of 10 years. This not only would save money, but allow elections to be held in November as they should be. This proposal on the ballot puts the district millage out to 2033, which, you guessed it, would require a special election, which by that time could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. That was the point that I made, which Mrs. Frank clearly missed when she waited for me to sit down to make her little comment, which if she had the guts to say it when I gave her the opportunity, I would have corrected it. I would like to thank the superintendent for taking the time and calling me to let me know that notes will be made for potential newcomers in the future. And this future election will hopefully be held in 2032 in order to avoid these unnecessary costs, election costs. Generally speaking, I believe that holding a vote in a non-November election looks sneaky at best, and coming from this district that has a long history of June, July, May, March, not to mention Saturday elections when that was legal, it just does not look good. Some people would make the claim that this is grounds to vote against this proposal coming up in February. I'm not one of those people. I will be the first to tell you that the leadership in this district is not the brightest, and they've done some things that leave me befuddled, to say the least. That being said, this millage is necessary for the proper function of a public school district, which is why people should vote yes. Moving forward, there are things that the people of our school district should be aware of. First of all, the financial position of this district is better than it's been in decades. As I look through your budget, you're in a very good position. You should use this as a time to build a fund balance in your sinking fund, rather than scheming away to raise taxes in the future. This is a great opportunity to keep the district's financial position in good shape and grow programs at the same time, which I hope you'll opt to do. Please do your duty, read your packets, read every line of the budget, and do not repeat mistakes that have led to financially bad decisions. This is the time to save for a rainy day, and I'll end with a quote from C.S. Lewis. One of the most cowardly things ordinary people can do is shut their eyes to facts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ridgely. It's my understanding, and this is what I said the last time, is that the February election is a national presidential primary. It's not a special election. Okay. Next green card is Lauren Martin.
Hi, I'm Lauren Martin. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I originally came to finish Tiffany's speech had she not been able to get done in 5 minutes, but I will reiterate what she said, that I am disheartened and concerned that teachers who worked so hard to get this grant to have this furniture are not allowed to keep it in their classrooms, and I would like to ask that decision be reconsidered. I think it's important for the students and the teachers, and I hope that that will be done. Since I've been here, I have 2 more topics to talk about. My first one is regarding the union dues, or the dues you said that you can collect on behalf of that, you can charge a fee for the dues that you collect. Is that pertaining to union dues? I don't know if you can respond to that, but I'm assuming it is. But I'm asking because I sent a FOIA request a little over a year ago asking who participated in the union. And the district's response to my FOIA was, since the law changed in 2013 prohibiting school districts from deducting union dues, we do not have access to union membership rolls. We do not know who participates and who does not. My question is, if you're not allowed to deduct union dues, how are you allowed to charge to deduct for union dues? So I'd like some clarification on that, and I'd like to know why my FOIA was not fulfilled if you are in fact deducting union dues from teachers. And then my other thing is to Mr. Kennedy, Obviously, it is no surprise, I have been a strong advocate of bringing safety to our district. I think it's very important, and I applaud the efforts being made. My question is, how many people in school shootings or school incidences, safety incidences, have entered a building forcefully, and how many of those people have entered through windows? I applaud the efforts of making things safer, but 18, I guess I'd like some little more clarification on the importance of the film on the windows. And what does that look like for students trying to get out? Because while I understand the district has procedures in place, if there's a shooting, what kids should do, I have always taught my children to get out of the school as fast as possible, and I don't care if they break a window to do so. I want them to get out. So I guess my question is, are they able to get out of those windows if they break a window with that film on it? I mean, I understand the need to keep people out, but I guess I don't see many incidences where people are coming in through the windows. So that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is our action items, and seeing as how we don't have any at this time, we will go ahead and adjourn. Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening, and be safe out there. The roads, I'm sure, are getting